Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are finally doing a follow-up on these Magene EXAR 508 Ultra wheel sets. Now, I've been using these wheels now for the past couple of months. A huge shout out and kudos to Magene for sending me out these wheels to test and review. And so far in this video, guys, I just wanted to go over just some of my thoughts on these wheels now that I have been using them for a while, because I will tell you right now, these wheels are absolutely fantastic. So we're gonna go over the specs on these wheel sets, what exactly makes these wheels so special, and then I'm also gonna give you my thoughts on these wheels as a whole. So without further ado, let's begin. All right, guys, so what you're seeing in front of you, these are the Magene EXAR 508 Ultra wheel set. Now, these are Magene's flagship wheels. I believe they have like 3 tiers of wheels, and this is their top of the line one. The retail on these is basically $1,200 USD, $1,199 USD. Now, these only come in one size, and as you see right here, so the 508 name is based on the depth of the wheels. So in the rear for these wheels, we have 58 millimeters in depth, and then in the front we have 50 millimeters. So what this is going to do is going to give you some of the aerodynamic benefits with having a deeper wheel in the rear, and then in the front, being that they're a little bit more shallow, they're going to give you some of that control that you're going to want, whether you're descending or if you have a lot of crosswinds in your aero. Now, of course, we have carbon spokes. Now, these carbon spokes, these have been around now for some time. You might have seen these carbon spokes on some of the wind space wheels, maybe the Elite Drive wheels, but they're very light for what they are. And because they are carbon spokes, they make these wheels very, very light. In fact, these are the second lightest set of wheels that I've ever tested and used on this channel. I believe these come in at about, I'll put it somewhere on the screen, but these come in at about 1,370 grams or maybe 60 grams. So basically a hair under 1,400 grams, which is pretty crazy considering that these, you know, they're in the middle of the line as far as the depth goes, but you're getting carbon spokes. The internal width on these is 23 millimeters, and then the external width on these is 30 millimeters. So basically what that does is that basically takes these Continental GP5000 tires that I have in a 28C width. They basically plump these out to about 30 millimeters. So what that means is, because these wheels plump up the tires to 30 millimeters in width, that basically means that it enables you to run a lower PSI. Now, typically for my weight, when I'm running 28s, I'm typically running a PSI somewhere between 76 to 78 PSI, which might be high for some of you guys might think out there. But with these, because these basically plump out to about 30 millimeters, that means that I'm running now somewhere between like 72 to 74 PSI, and it makes all the difference, because when you figure, oh, and I should also mention that I'm also running, I've been switching back and forth between latex inner tubes as well as TPU inner tubes. Now, the TPU inner tubes, they are lighter than the latex tubes, of course. You basically save about 100 grams for the set. However, for how I ride, I think that I actually prefer the latex inner tubes instead, because they're just a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more supple. Again, it might just be anecdotal in my mind, but I do just like the way that latex tubes roll versus the TPU inner tubes. So, you know, I don't mind having the extra 100 grams of weight if it means that the ride is going to be a little bit more comfortable. Now, in addition to the carbon spokes, as well as the wider internal width of 23 millimeters, Magene is also using a ratchet style hub, basically something like the old first generation of DT Swiss hubs. So this comes with a 36 tooth ratchet design, and what's cool about these is, because this is the old more or less DT Swiss design, you can actually upgrade the ratchet to a 54 tooth or even a 60 tooth ratchet if you want. I'm sure you could probably find some on AliExpress for maybe like 30-40 bucks if you don't want to spend $100 or more on the official DT Swiss version of the ratchet upgrade. I don't believe that Magene offers the ratchet in-house, but that is just something to know, that because this is the old DT Swiss design, The spacing as far as having to align the calipers, to update the ratchet system, all that is going to be basically the same as a DT Swiss system. So as you guys can see, I am running these wheels on my Specialized LA Sprint, which of course, as we know by now, if you guys have been following this channel for some time, that the frame set is alloy. We have a carbon seat post as well as a carbon fork, excuse me. So because it's an alloy frame, it does mean that the ride can be stiff at times depending on how you set it up. Now, when you mix that with the carbon spokes, that also can make for a very stiff and jarring ride. However, this is where I think that Magene made a great choice by offering up the wider internal width of 23 millimeters, because like I said, this plumps up the tires to 30 millimeters in width. So I think all of that, basically what that does is it does add a little bit more comfort to the ride while still giving you the stiffness that you would want, because if you're running carbon spokes as well as a alloy frame set, obviously you're doing that because you want the performance benefits of that. But there might be certain days where maybe you just don't want all of the stiffness that comes with carbon spokes and an alloy frame. And I think this is why you're seeing a lot more brands move to wider internal width. To me, this is a big game changer for me, especially being that the wheels are hooked rather than hookless. So you're not gonna have to worry about having to only run tires that are hookless compatible. You don't have to faff around with tubeless sealing, anything like that. You basically are getting a wheel set that is gonna be basically a really great all-around wheel set, and it's gonna give you the performance that you want with the carbon spokes versus going something like a steel spoke like a CX Ray or what's the other one, the pillar wing spoke wheels as well. Now, while we're on the topic of Magene, let me just give another kudos to Magene. This is their radar sensor rear light. Retail on this for Americans, it's like $129 USD. I believe you can pick this up on AliExpress, or maybe you could probably buy the lights as well as the wheels on my good buddy Joe's website, Panda Podium. But I would probably check with AliExpress first, and of course you can always contact Magene through the website. But for $130 for a radar light, it's been fantastic. The battery life is excellent. Of course, it pairs up to my Wahoo Bolt. So I mean, you know, you're basically saving about, I don't know, $70 versus going with the Garmin Varia radar light. But just overall, I absolutely love what Magene has been doing lately with these fantastic wheels, the radar light. I use their heart rate monitor when I'm training indoors on Zwift. I actually found that their arm band version of their heart rate monitor is way more reliable and consistent than using the chest band that Wahoo uses. So I would say definitely check out Magene's website, as they have such a variety of different products on offer at a really great price. Now, before we go ahead and take these wheels and the frame out on the road so I can give you some of my thoughts on these wheels, let me just quickly talk about the frame and the bike in general once again. Now, I have talked about my Specialized LA Sprint for a couple of times now, but the reason why I want to talk about it now is because unfortunately the time has come where I'm probably going to end up selling this frame. This frame is fantastic. I love everything about it, but in order to make room for being able to review more better or worse frames, I need to make room for new bikes. So anyway, so this is a size 56 frame set. The saddle height is like 77.7 centimeters high. We have 140, that's right boys and girls, 140 length S-Work stem in the -12 degree. We're rocking the Prime Carbon Aero handlebars. For $200, these things are fantastic. I love the ergonomics on it. It's very comfortable when you're on the hoods. SRAM Force E-Tap, of course. We have super cast bar tape per usual. Got the Look carbon keel bladed pedals with the ceramic bearings. Of course, we have out back, we have the 10 to 30 tooth cassette, and then I actually went back to a 2x drivetrain versus using the 1x. Believe it or not, even though it's a little bit of extra weight obviously versus going the 1x, I really just like having the options and the practicality of using a 2x system. And honestly, there's just times where I'm riding around and maybe I'm just a little bit tired, or I'm doing a recovery ride where I want to have a lot more bailout gears. And that's something that you do not get when you're rocking a 52 tooth 1x chain ring out front. But overall, guys, I love this bike, man. I just love the way that it's set up. And to be honest, to be quite honest, this bike doesn't even need super deep aero wheels. I think that this setup here with the 50mm wheels in the front and then the 58mm depth wheels in the back just makes this bike look so amazing. It just pairs very well. At this depth, you're going to be able to accelerate better than say like a 65mm depth wheel. At least in theory, you should be able to. And by having a wider internal width, just makes the LA Sprint overall just a little bit more comfortable while still maintaining all of the performance that you would expect for both the frame set and a carbon spoked lace wheel such as these. Okay, alrighty, so now that I've gone over the specs of the wheels and I've gone over a little bit about my LA Sprint, let's go ahead and take these out on the road so I could just briefly discuss how I feel about these wheels. But spoiler alert, I'm just gonna tell you right now that these wheels are absolutely fantastic. 100% must buy. But let's go into exactly why I like these wheels. So let's continue. Alrighty guys, no lie, like I was saying, I absolutely love these wheels. These are some of my favorite wheels. I would say these come in at a very close second behind the Windspace Loon Hyper D67 wheels that I've been using for about the last year. Now, they can't be a direct comparison to those because those are basically, you know, 65mm depth in wheel, and these are only about 50 to 58. But as far as how they feel, just how they accelerate, the comfort that you get with a wider internal width of 23mm internal, these wheels have everything you would want for a one set of wheels to rule them all. And at $1,200, they're such a fantastic deal. I mean, no offense to Windspace, as much as I love their wheels, those wheels now cost like $1,500 USD before any sort of discounts. So for these at $1,200, for everything that you get as far as the specs, these are easily the best wheels at this particular depth. Now, I do like my Elite Drive wheels as well. I just don't find them I don't find them really as stiff as these. These are just a little bit more stiff. But yeah, because of the depth and everything, you know, you're gonna be able to accelerate well with these. They're super lightweight, like I said, at about 1,360 grams. Just very comfortable wheels, but they're still stiff as well. One thing I appreciate with Magene is they have really been listening closely to what customers want. These days, you know, customers, they want value. They want carbon spokes. They want to be able to run wider set of tires. They want a hub or free hub or whatever you want to call it, a hub that is easily serviceable. You can replace the parts inside of it. You can upgrade the hub. These are all such small things that by themselves aren't that really big of a deal, but collectively as a whole entire package, as a whole entire system, these wheels have it. These are definitely a must buy. So if you're gonna ask me, hey, if I could only have one set of wheels forever, I would probably pick the Hypers just because, you know, those are super duper aero. But like I said, they're also $300 more than these. But for $1,200, absolutely best buy you can get for wheels. These wheels, especially paired with this LA Sprint, they just always make me excited to hop on the bike. I've used these wheels in this setup for fast group rides. Of course, you guys know how I do, and no problem accelerating, no problem with the bad pavement that Chicago has. Everything just works as intended. Out of the saddle, sprinting, all of that stuff, absolutely fantastic. It's wheels like these that really just makes it so exciting to ride a bike these days. We're now living in a time where not everything is outrageously expensive. I'm not saying that $1,200 is cheap by any means, but for what you get, $1,200, fantastic deal. If you guys haven't figured it out, yes, these wheels are completely off the chain. The main thing that I absolutely love about the Specialized LA Sprint is, despite the fact that it is an aluminum frame set, that Specialized somehow has been able to basically make this frame be stiff because it is alloy, but yet allow it to be very comfortable. And it's really hard to explain unless you actually get on this bike and ride it. Pause. But they've just managed to make it as such that when you're out of the saddle or you're sprinting, it's still a very stiff, very snappy frame. Just the shifts, everything about this really wants to accelerate quickly, but it's not harsh over bad pavement. I've said this before, and some of you guys in the comments didn't believe me, but I'm telling you that this bike, despite being alloy, it's very comfortable. And just adding these Magene wheels on here is just a cherry on top to make this bike such that you can live with every single day. because yeah, it's not too harsh. It does not get upset over bad pavement. It just works really well. And this becomes extremely apparent as soon as you start testing some of these cheap Chinese bikes that I've done in the past. They can make them as stiff as they can. However, they have not been able to design these cheap bikes in a way that they can be stiff yet not get upset over rough pavement, as far as the control and all that sort of stuff. And this was apparent with my my Tantan X38 frame set. It was a stiff frame, but it was just pretty sloppy on bad pavement. And even my Yishan R086 frame set, which I absolutely love, in my opinion, that is by far the best cheap or budget Chinese frame that you can buy as far as all the cheap Chinese bikes that I've reviewed so far. But even that is not without its faults. It's by far the best one, and it definitely is a bike that I can recommend to you guys. But there are times when you realize the stiffness of the frame, and while it doesn't get upset over rough pavement the way the other cheap bikes do, you know, it just does not have the control in the same way that Specialized has been able to do with the Specialized LA Sprint. And this sort of feeling of responsiveness yet comfort, this is just something that comes with buying from a major brand. If you're having a day where you're just on a recovery ride and you don't want your body to be punished, you know, the bigger brands that I've tested, and with the exception of my Windspace, which that more or less is a premium brand, you're not punished on your super easy rides. Now the thing with the Chinese bikes is, even if you are doing, say, a zone 2 ride or a recovery ride, you basically always know that you are riding a cheap bike just by the way it performs, even at slower speeds over rough pavement, bumps and things like that. I am gonna miss this Specialized LA Sprint once I do eventually sell it. But I really have to make room for other bikes so that I can keep bringing you guys reviews. So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Once again, big thank you to Magene for working with me now for about the last year and a half. I love all the products that they offer, and these wheels are just a testament to the fact that Magene has been listening to customers. So as always, guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.